Welcome, Starseeds. This is Dharani Akashic, Activation Catalyst, Oracle, Soul Guide, and fellow Starseed host for Unleash Your Cosmic Power, a podcast exclusively for Starseeds on a mission. This is the podcast to help you to unleash your cosmic power. We are the star beings, lovers of freedom, lovers of knowledge, lovers of life, who came to the planet with the intention to help liberate humanity from the fear-based chains of limitation and enslavement. Get ready, my fellow Starseeds, to embark upon the extraordinary adventure of being a human in a body on Earth. Together, we will dive deep into the mysteries of the universe to help you to remember your cosmic origins, explore the vast realms of consciousness, and help awaken you to your multidimensionality. We will be encouraging you to take that guided action from your higher self to fulfill your divine purpose and unlock your cosmic potential as you gain the courage to face everything that stands in the way of anchoring your divine expression and embodying your highest self to create a life that mirrors your soul desires, inner fulfillment, and an abundance of prosperity, love, and joy, just the way that you were meant to. So I wanted to start off this podcast by having us listen to this song. You to remember that Divine Mother is singing the tones of your soul into all that exists right now. And if you notice how the different tones and frequencies are woven individually and yet fluidly into the song of oneness to create a melody that is the collective song of our species, of humanity, of all that exists. And even in those moments when you think things are hard, it's not that the mother sings you with any less vigor or strength. It's about having the free will to consciously attune yourself to hear her singing your song within the all, and to not get confused about what your individual tone and soul sign is like. The more you listen, the louder it gets. And the more that you can hear her singing you into being exactly how you're meant to be. So how aware will you allow yourself to be today? How much are you willing to listen to the Holy Mother singing you into existence, combining the tones of your soul song with the song of all of her children, woven together into a tapestry of consciousness that creates geometrical patterns within the all, upheld by Divine Father in sacred geometry that underlies the resonant frequency of all that exists. I hope you enjoyed that and it wasn't too much. But yeah, this has been a pretty intense 11/11 portal for me, and not intense like in a bad way necessarily. I don't really want to say that it's bad. It's just been a lot of learning, a lot to integrate. I've been doing a lot of meditation, a lot of sacred geometry. I've been trying to figure out how to like put things together. I've been studying a lot of different things. Part of the reason that I was feeling like this is a very intense 11/11 portal for me was that in uncovering so much and in learning so much, you start to realize how corrupt the system is, and you start to feel almost like personally sabotaged, which for some of us has been the case by various different groups or ET groups and people in your family that have been infiltrated, people that have been impulsed to cause you harm or pain. And a lot of this can be found in the birth chart. And I was examining the birth charts of everyone that has been in my life, everyone whose information I had access to. And so I started to think about like, wow, I started to feel a little bit hopeless about it. And then I of course was still meditating a lot, just to try to figure out like what exactly was happening and what I'm supposed to do about it, right? If I was surrounded by all these sabotaging things, then what is my role here? When it seems like we're talking about the forces that make up the universe. How can you really stand up to something like that, right? That's exactly what the negative forces would want you to feel. They would want you to feel stuck. They would want you to feel like there's no way that you could ever get out of this, no way that you could ever resolve it. And as humans, we need hope. We have a really big brain. Whether, you want to look at your birth chart or your parents and anybody else that's been in your life, and whether you want to think that they've purposely sabotaged you or whatever it is, your circumstances are actually part of the reason why you're here. The transmutation of your pain is what actually allows you to understand, and it gives you a natural passion to help others to overcome it. So if you're one of these people who's here wanting to change the world and wanting to make a difference, you want to be reclaiming your power with God. And we have to understand that we really do need to have unconditional forgiveness for ourselves and for others, because if you look deep enough, not just to the point where you see how people have been influenced in your life to act a certain way, if you look deeper than that, with the eyes of unconditional love for yourself and for those around you, you begin to see that we really have been in a fallen matrix system. So is it people just playing the roles and not choosing to know themselves enough to know any better at that point in time? So your mother, your father, your friends, your lover, they didn't really mean to hurt you. And if they were connected to the organic soul matrix, if they were connected with God, then they wouldn't have hurt you. They were impulsed into doing certain things through the planetary influences that involve all of the negative ETs, their DNA tagging, their agendas, the trackers, everything that is meant to and designed to keep humans trapped at this level. And so I began to look at things with the eyes of unconditional love and forgiveness, and even to have that neutrality and compassion for myself as I took myself back through lifetimes while meditating and viewing specific scenes in my past, those traumatic things that were locked within my body. Because the thing is, your soul is always going to try to heal. And so you'll have lifetimes where something really traumatic happens within that lifetime. And what happens is that matter is obviously energy condensed and it's vibrating at a very slow level compared to just like free energy. And so what happens when you have traumatic lifetimes is that there are chemical reactions and chemical components that follow you into the next lifetime. And so if in one lifetime you have this very specific imprint of horror, trauma, and chaos, then it will cause an energetic imprint within your actual soul, and it can cause tearing within your light bodies. And this is what you carry with you into the next lifetime for conflict resolution. And so you'll keep manifesting the karmic consequences or the after effects or similar situations until your soul can come back into that moment and free up the energy that was stuck there. So what happens is that when really traumatic things occur,
in any lifetime and you have this traumatic stress response, your body is trying to keep you alive. And so it will lock in those exact chemical, neurological wiring and the way that everything is firing together. It will lock that in, and it will lock it so deep sometimes that it will follow you into the next lifetime. And so a lot of us are here not realizing how much pre-programming we have from previous lives. And so in this particular lifetime, you are in a way held back by those traumas because they're programmed into your DNA and into your soul in specific cases for you to act a certain way, for you to be reactive to everything that exists instead of creative, instead of being a true creator, creating from a place of wholeness and freedom. And so what a lot of humans do is we create from a place of wounding. And so the things that we create are therefore corrupted because we don't want to create those things because we genuinely, authentically, from a free place of wholeness wanted to create them. We end up creating those situations because we have desires that match our wounding. We have desires that are the antithesis to our exact wounds because our soul is trying to solve them. And so when you start to look at everything like that, what you realize is that there are aspects of you that are trying to heal, and that is why you have all the obstacles. That is why you're manifesting these particular circumstances. Yes, there's negative dark beings that can coerce people, that can influence people, but it comes back to you understanding that you have the ability to go back in time. Like, there's many meditations to do this, and I can explain this better in a different podcast. But essentially, I just go into the Akashic records, and you can, learn hypnotic techniques to get yourself to this brainwave state where you can actually travel in, within your consciousness. And you can even just do it by like scanning your body, like, where do I feel pain? Or you basically just follow the pain, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and you allow it to reveal something to you while you're in a state of neutrality, while you're in a state of just being willing to observe. And when you're in this state, your subconscious will show you exactly what you're asking. So if you say, show me the root of this, then you will start to see movie-like images of the exact timeline or, when this particular pattern started. It's very helpful for you to have an intention for you to guide the reading for yourself or for others, because that's how I do it with other people. I ask them to have an intention because that's essentially what drives what is revealed during the reading. And so when you do this for yourself, you will keep on asking. You'll follow the feeling curiously, non-judgmentally, whatever the feeling is. You just have to be willing to feel it. Sometimes it's easier for people to feel it physically or mentally, and it might have some sort of discomfort within your body. Like, a lot of times I had pain, and sometimes I still do, but it's more rare, within like the scapula, like in the back. And so you just follow that pain, and oh my gosh, that one has led me to so many different instances in lifetimes. And I'm going to take the approach of past lives because that's just how I view things. If you don't want to use that approach, then a lot of what I say might not make sense. You can take whatever approach you want. The whole point is, if it heals you, it heals you. If it's not useful, then just don't use it. And so if your approach is healing, like, I want to be free of this pattern, and you start to meditate and you ask your subconscious to take you to those exact roots of where that particular pattern, that seed that became a solid manifestation within your current reality, where that seed is, it will take you there. And what you realize is that you'll often find very traumatic situations. You'll see very traumatic scenes of a movie. And it's like you're watching. And so you're watching this movie, and what you realize is that you start to feel compassion for yourself. And what you notice is that there is stuck energy, there's frozen energy within those fields of time. You have all of the chemical firing that occurred when you experienced that trauma and chaos is still stuck. It's part of the memory of your body. And So what happens is that we have to go back and release that energy, because what we don't realize is that the reason that some of these things are happening is because when you start to explore how corrupted things have been, you'll see that there are beings within this universe that have completely taken advantage of the fact that there's such a thing as free will. And so they have decided to, instead of feeding on God's source vital life force, they are feeding off of the energy of other beings. They have chosen to do so much harm that they've cut themselves off from God in such a way to where they don't want to come back to God. And so they prefer to feed on the energy of other beings and other people. And these are the beings that will impulse others to do harmful things, and they will attach themselves to those beings and suck their energy and life force out. And it sounds funny, but it's totally true. And so when you go back into those timelines, you have to release the energy by compassionately witnessing what occurred, being willing. Sometimes you have to be your own guardian angel within that particular situation. And you can choose to heal the timeline either by guiding yourself into a solution within that lifetime, as if you were giving that archetype or that movie version of you the guidance that is needed to avoid the trauma, to resolve the trauma, which I think is very helpful to do. And then you can ask God to clear, to heal, to repair what needs to be repaired. And you ask God to return the energy to the rightful owner. And you ask that all components that need to leave that dimension be returned to the proper astral realm in which they belong, to the proper realms. Because the thing is, like, energy isn't necessarily evil, even though sometimes I use the word evil. It's just, it's not in the right place. It is hungry. It is seeking a food source. God is supposed to be our food source. But because these beings have cut themselves off from source, they're not where they're supposed to be. And so they choose to feed on especially highlight beings and angelic beings, because we have the highest amount of light and we're, good supplies of it. And so you can ask for those beings to be escorted back to the proper astral realm that is justly earned. Or you can just witness, resolve things for yourself, and then ask God to heal you, and then you collapse the timeline. You just say timeline collapse, and you either imagine it like a portal, or like a movie screen. It just closes, and you imagine your energy returning to you. Your vital life force energy returns to you as you reclaim it for yourself. And what starts to happen is that you start to gain more of your energy. And usually when you do this, and you actually address the root of an issue, you will not have that same symptom or manifestation within this lifetime, because you've resolved it at the very deepest root seed level. And that is a huge basis for the healing that I do with people, because when you have these timelines in parallel realities, and everything is really happening at once, but that's more complicated. So when you have these timelines happening, they are siphoning energy. There's negative entities that are feeding off of the trauma that is occurring in those lifetimes right now. And so when you go back and you collapse them and evict those negative entities from feeding off of you, you reclaim more of your power, and you have more access to you, so that you can become more free to create whatever it is that you're trying to create in your life. If you notice, a lot of times when crimes are committed, they're done during passionate moments, when something was going on astrologically, when people, a lot of times, they don't even remember what they did, or they felt unable to stop it because the surge of chemical reactions within their body, that impulse was so strong. And it's not an excuse, it's just an indication of how negative ET forces can easily take advantage of us when we are wounded, and especially when we have those cracks within our light field from previous wounding. That's when they can really attach to people. And when we're susceptible to distress, we're being drawn out from our center point of stillness within God, within our own heart. And what happens is that the peace within our heart can no longer protect us when we're drawn outside of it. because then we're no longer acting from a place of connection with our God self. We're reacting to whatever fear, holographic image, projection, idea, fearful thought form the negative entities are showing you. And so it's really important for us to develop the habits that help us to stay connected into our center of peace and neutrality, because at some point you simply will become your habits, especially when you reach a point where you're just like tired. Maybe you're like 100 years old or something. Like, you just become your habits. And so the more that your body runs on auto, the more that you have to realize that your habits will determine what happens to you in the future and will become you. So if you train yourself to come back to center, to come back and be with God, and to not be as reactionary, and instead be a co-creator within the heart and body of your inner source, of your being, then everything can, resolve itself much more harmoniously than when we're just being reactive, when we're just responding to those negative planetary, ET, astral, negative being impulses. And so it's important that we also allow unconditional forgiveness to surge through us when we realize that other people are trying to hurt us, because, again, they're not doing it necessarily with the type of intent that we would imagine a completely sober, healed being would have. They're doing it from a place of them being so wounded themselves. And again, it's not an excuse. It's just, you realize that we all have played into this victim-victimizer scenario within this reality simply by entering this closed off system of polarity where energy is limited and it's being controlled by these forces, where souls are forced to compete with each other for survival, where they want you to think that it's a kill or be killed type of deal. They want you to eat each other. They want that. We don't really feed ourselves from sunlight. We don't generate our own food. Here on this realm, you have to eat something, right? And so when you take this to the extreme levels, it's other beings feeding on other beings. And this is not the only way, but it's often the easiest to take part in this game here as it is, and to choose from one of the available roles that they give us. And if you're one of those people who chooses not to do that, then of course there's going to be all kinds of obstacles, because if you came to take down that system or to awaken other souls, to choose to heal, to take back their power, you're taking away the food source of these negative entities, and they don't want you to do that. You're taking away their power. And the thing is that they're not just using you as food because they're hungry. They're using you as food, especially light beings. They're using the vital energy that God is giving you to power up their false light grids, their negative energy creations. They're fueling themselves to continue to perpetuate the abuse of more beings. And that's why you really want to take your power back, because not only are you healing yourself, but you're preventing them from using your energy to feed a system that is abusing other people, other beings, other souls. And especially the angelic souls who came here from outside of this matrix with the agenda to help those who are already here or who are willing to heal enough to leave this game, those souls are going to be targeted. And there's going to be a lot of obstacles on the path. But I just want you to remember that the game here is finite and it ends in death. So whether you choose to be a king among these demonic forces and them feeding on your soul, death is going to happen here anyway. And we can either choose to be successful here in the ways that they want us to be successful. There are many souls who have at different points throughout our many lives decided to work with the negative beings because it was easier, because we felt that we had no choice. And that's what they want you to believe. And so a lot of the successful things that you see are probably tainted by evil. And in the Vedas, it says that you don't really have to kill a man to kill him. You just have to take away his power. You just have to take away his influence. You just have to take away his money. And so a lot of the beings who are trying to create positive change within the system are often met with obstacles. Like, think about Nikola Tesla, right? What was he trying to create? Free energy for people. And what happened to him? He like pretty much died penniless. And think about amazing artists that have lived in the world. Think about Joan of Arc. Think about like all the people who have tried to genuinely have influence and create something that will benefit people, that is a push for our freedom. Think about what happens to them. And of course, it's going to make you want to run towards evil. And that's what they want. But it's not the only way. And you have to remember that even if you choose to align with evil within this lifetime, it ends in death. Or you can choose to align with God's source and take that wisdom, that knowledge, that positive karma into your next life. You can choose eternal life in the real organic matrix of existence as it was created by God's source with your soul family. And you can continue on the amazing journey of consciousness exploration outside of this matrix system, in the next universe, in the angelic worlds, in the worlds of a real, sustainable love, in the worlds where you get to be a sovereign divine creator, in the worlds where you are fed directly by God's source, where you don't have to feed on any other being, where you don't have to fight for survival. And that is the worlds that are fed by God, that are directly connected to God. And so through all of my research that I was doing, I was looking at the DNA level. I was looking at the sacred geometry that underlies our actual DNA, that underlies the geometry of all the different life forms. And I was relating that to the universe. I was relating that to the stars. I trying to understand how we deviated from the organic matrix, from the way that from the world that God made for us. And I was trying to understand why the corruptions run so deep. Because yes, you can find sacred geometry in all of nature. It is all around us. But you have to understand, it is resonant because this is a corrupted universe. Of course, the geometry is going to match that. But when you actually begin to think about it and question it, there are other forms. There are other geometries that can also coexist within this same world, because everything is here right now. Everything. And so the way that you are perceiving the construct of reality is based on your vibrational frequency. It is based on your energetic makeup, the way that your soul is structured to interact with the all that is, determines what channel you're tuned into as far as dimensions go, and how much energy can travel back and forth. So in free systems that God created, energy can travel from here to there, to all of the dimensions. We are meant to communicate with our soul family. We are meant to communicate with our alternate lives. We're meant to communicate system to system, different dimensions, and we're meant to communicate with God's source freely. And can we do that right now? Can you do that right now? Very few people can do it within this matrix, because this is the fallen tree system where we have been cut off purposely through our DNA, through the very fabric of this space that we're perceiving to be reality. It has been corrupted by the engineers that wanted to pass off as gods, these fake imposter god beings, the demigods. If you research deeply enough, you'll realize that the geometric design of our DNA, of the molecules, and the way that the chemical bonding is, the way that the chemical bonds form within us to replicate our DNA have been altered.
Angelic DNA has at least 12 strands that are activated that correspond to access and intercommunication with 12 dimensions, and that is also extended to the 13th, 14th, and 15th levels of non-localized reality within a harmonic universe, which is also able to extend beyond into the all that exists in ever-increasing levels of quantum realities, which God's source has engineered, and it is part of the crystal lattice of reality that corresponds with the crystalline architecture that we are rebuilding for the humans. This is the crystal unified Christ Sophia divine holy child of God in unity within that trinity of divine mother, father, child creation forms of existence.
And this is what we're doing here. We're reinstalling, reintegrating, reclaiming the lost souls within the fallen matrix system. And we're basically here to identify, heal, repair, rebuild, and restructure our plasmic DNA light bodies corresponding to our crystalline architecture that is able to unite and openly interact within the God realms of reality and free co-creation with the source of it all. We are here to reclaim those souls and have to unwind, evict the fallen beings who do not want to return to God's source from having access to the souls that belong with God, that are ready to reclaim their divinity, sovereignty, and freedom out of this matrix of illusion and collapse the timeline of suffering and enslavement once and for all. So we went from a 12-dimensional access and capabilities to a 10D potential of existence. So for most humans, they only have access to 3, 4, maybe 5D or even 6D. And then that's when they're saying that they can manipulate reality at like 6 or 7D. But if you look at the human DNA backbone, you see that our DNA nucleotides are made up of a phosphate sugar backbone. It contains a phosphate group with 5 carbon sugar and a nitrogenous base. And so the current sugar base in our DNA is a pentose made up of these 5 carbon atoms that form a chain with either a deoxyribonucleic acid in our DNA or a ribonucleic acid in our RNA. And we all know that RNA is a single-stranded molecule. So in this pentose sugar base with the 5 carbons forming one side of our DNA strands, it forms a covalent bond, which is a hydrogen bond. That means they're sharing that hydrogen, and it combines it with another nucleic acid, which is another pentose. So you have 2 pentoses, 5 and 5 makes 10, right? So this stacks up as the nucleic acids to form our current double-stranded DNA molecule corresponding with the 10 dimensions in this particular universe. So you have the adenine pairing with the cytosine base, sharing the hydrogen bond, and then you have cytosine with the guanine, and so on, and it stacks up in a slightly crooked way that it gives it that pivot, like that DNA ladder spin, and it has that twirl. So these molecules correspond with the base 10 universe and the false matrix of reality that most people are experiencing. And yes, you can find the sacred geometry that supports this fallen matrix because it's in our DNA, it's everywhere, but there's also other structures. So what I was looking at is hexose, which is another possible sugar base that we could be using in our DNA, which is a 6-carbon sugar that is actually much more similar to glucose, which is, the fuel source for our body. And science agrees that humans used to have 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, and they say that this gene was bred out. So looking at this 6-carbon hexose would then allow for a base of 12-dimensional access. So we could have access to the 12 dimensions if our DNA wasn't so altered. So obviously there's other factors involved. There's different enzymes, and the entire recipe to create our current human has to be altered at various corresponding levels. So yes, there's other possibilities for us to have this 12 base DNA molecule that corresponds to the 12D universe potential access that we originally had. So if you look at how most humans have 46 chromosomes, not 48 like other primates, scientists will tell you that at some point in our evolution, humans absorbed the 2 remaining chromosomes, and so now we only have 46. And if you look at sacred geometry and you do the math, you'll see that 12 dimensions corresponds to 12 strands. And if you take 2 humans, that's 24, right? 2 humans merging with another similarly coded being to create life. And so that would be 48 chromosomes, not 46. And through meditation, I was shown how this can happen. So when this false matrix was created, in the simplest terms, and this is a simplified version, we originally have a light body corresponding to a tetrahedral star. So if you take that tetrahedral star, you just take one side of it, one strand. In case, thinking of our DNA, you will see the pyramid structure with the 4 faces and 4 vertex points and 6 edges. So again, that's a hexagonal carbon structure that makes up one strand of our original DNA. And so to make 2 strands of the angelic human, you combine the other pyramid and intersect it in its opposing form. So you have like 2 intersecting pyramids, and it looks like a Merkaba, and we've all seen what a Merkaba looks like. It looks like a 3D Star of David. And so now we have a figure with 12 original edges and 8 vertex points and 8 faces, which represents the 8 dimensions. And it really means 7 in human understanding, because 1D is just like 1 point. So 7-dimensional beings can affect the physical reality. But in structure, it would look like 8 different edges, 8 vertex points. So knowing that everything is connected, if you follow the geometrical pattern and add to the inner octahedron shape that is contained within that 3D Star of David, you will realize that you'll know exactly where the next points should be, and you just keep on stacking and following the ladder. And so you can start to form a lattice of connecting vertex points that correspond to 12 suns. And I'm speaking of the points as suns, knowing that harmony is based on trines. If you continue this pattern, you see that you can add another sun to each pole of the structure that you make, so that there's one above and one below, and then you basically have a 13th dimensional mother arc, and then the 14th dimensional. And because it's a trine, so following the harmonious laws, as you continue to draw out this angelic human backbone, you'll add another point that corresponds to the 15th dimension. And it goes on in all of the directions in sacred geometry unto eternity, following the backbone of the sacred coding in harmony with the nature of a Holy Trinity. And if you look at this infinite fractal shape that is formed, you will see that it's all connected, leading back to source in an open system where there's no fragmentation, where everything is connected. And so you realize that what happened here is that, so imagine that you have a flashlight, or imagine that you have the Trinity of one of those three-pointed pyramids. And so to create a false matrix within a finite system, that would be cut off from the original source. One being could establish themselves as a god and control the hierarchy of beings coming after it, and place themselves as the top of it, at the top of the pyramid, to be that jealous, demanding god that everybody talks about in like Bibles and sacred texts. So imagine that this being was once part of a Holy Trinity. It was once part of this divine matrix of reality, and it wanted to create its own version because it wanted power for itself. So imagine that this being as a vertex point within a three-sided pyramid. So this sun is beaming on three sides that are all equally connected, equally powerful. But since it cannot control that reality system, it decides to create a fourth edge. So if it is a finite sun, instead of beaming full force onto the other 2 points, it creates a fourth edge. So it creates a bi-wave polarity system where one beam has been turned into two, and instead of being a trinity, it's a bi-wave system of polarity. This is like the absorbed chromosomes that they speak of when you diminish the structure by 2. And that's exactly what scientists tell you. They say that humans have 46 chromosomes, whereas chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans have 48. And this major difference is usually attributed to some sort of fusion with the ancestral chromosomes at, I think they believe it happened at chromosome 2, and this inactivated one of the 2 original centromeres. So those other 2 original ones are the original part of the original creation, but because one of them, so imagine this light beam going from one sun, we'll say it was like the selfish sun, and it was beaming in one direction, but it decided it didn't want to do that, so it has to reduce its own brilliance to now create another beam. And so that's why the energy is reduced to create this finite system. And so this is a DNA alteration. This is like Eve coming from Adam's rib. This is the cutting off of Sacred Mother. This is the placing of a male archetype as a soul god with its soul sons and creations. And this is the beginning of a fallen matrix system with no self-sustaining nourishment. It's cutting off that 6-carbon base that forms our DNA into this 5-edged pentagon. And because you've now reduced the original sphere of creation, it changes the actual reality that humans can tap into. And I love sacred geometry, and people won't know this because it's everywhere, and it's actually supported by science, like the fallen matrix, because scientists will find it and they'll find these different patterns and they're like, oh, that's how reality is, not realizing that it's actually based on part of that fallen system. But if you study it further and you take it further, and I always encourage people to take whatever they find, whatever they hear, and explore it even more to find what is beyond that. And if you ask enough questions, you'll come to realize that it is actually part of the corrupted system. And so that's the system that the false gods endorse, and they've influenced people to support it unknowingly, to be part of that 10th dimensional reality and to be cut off from God's source because they don't want you to be in power. So it's not directly your fault if you followed some of the fallen geometric systems. It's just that you didn't know, or maybe you didn't pursue it far enough for you to actually come to this realization. So think about this. And this also corresponds to there's so many different ways to divide the reality into 12. Like think about the 12 disciples of Jesus and all of that. But I wanted you to consider how we went from a tetrahedral structure. So you have 12 suns, and consider the structure of crystals. So within our crystalline structure, crystals, such as quartz, they're made of silicates, and in this perfect silicate matrix that they make, and I like the word like matrix, like a matricy, because it's more, I just don't really resonate with X's, X sounds, so they basically form a divine trinity. They follow that divine original design of a holy trinity, which allows them to have perfect nesting, perfect branching, and perfect compression. Data packing and data sharing is then possible. They can pack in much more energy than any other structure. And it's basically, they're all sharing the oxygen atoms with the adjacent tetrahedrons next to them, and they follow that sacred divine geometry based on the original system. And this is just an example of what our light body could be doing. It's an example of what we're really getting prepared to do ourselves, which is to activate our Christed DNA body following that holy trinity. And if you look at that closely, I think I mentioned this in a later part of the podcast, but I was watching this video on Instagram where this guy tries to melt rocks with this magnifying glass, and it's like this huge magnifying thing that he found on like an old TV screen. So he takes the highly concentrated rays of the sun and he aims them at rocks, and then the rocks will form into lava like really, really quickly, and he burns holes in like apples and all kinds of different things. But then when he tried to do it to I think he had an amethyst quartz, the quartz actually didn't melt or explode or break off into chunks and pieces the way that the other materials did. It just turned white. And that just goes to show you like how well a quartz can pack that solar light energy. And if you think about it, like if anything was to ever go wrong within the with our sun and with the protective layers around the earth, if you have a Christed light body that can effectively pack all the energy of the sun into itself, you would be protected from the deathly solar rays, because you would have the ability to hold that much light within your being and within your system. So that's just something to think about. It's so obvious if people ask and look at our DNA. If, of course, there's going to be all kinds of different sacred geometry around you, but a lot of it is part of the fallen matrix system, of the hijacked universe, of the world that wants to keep you stuck here, looping in reincarnation, so that you can be a little energy battery that feeds all of these negative systems of suffering. And I know that sounds heavy, because most human desires stem from our survival needs, including just like food, shelter, clothing, loving relationships, having health, maybe having agile bodies. Maybe some of us want luxury. And when those needs are met, then maybe we start to desire a little bit more. Maybe we do want to have legacy. We want to have influence. We want to be remembered, and so outlive death even for a little bit longer, right? So most humans want their trials and tribulations to actually mean more. And so you could say like, well, this is all like a big made up story, like how you interpret the reality, what does it matter? And that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, your pain matters, and you can either decide that God is real and that you are able to tap into the abundant universe and co-create with God's source and have eternal life, or you can continue to live within this matrix and ignore your actual spirit and just continue to be part of this fallen system and just wait till it's your turn to be eaten, because eventually it's going to run out. Or just wait till like the solar, till whatever has been protecting us from the sun stops protecting us. I actually saw this video today that was really cool. I was scrolling through Instagram, and this video popped up, and it was this guy, and I don't remember his name, but if I find him, I'll let you know. He was messing around with a giant, what do you call those things? Like a giant magnifying lens that he found, I think, from like a different TV. So he had this giant magnifying lens, and he focused it on the rays of the sun, and he was messing around with trying to blow up different things. So he was he was like, what's going to happen when I aim this at a rock? So he was aiming these highly concentrated sunbeams, he lives in Arizona, into the rock, and it would melt the rock like instantly. It would melt it into lava. He tried glass, he tried all kinds of different stuff. And then he got to an amethyst quartz. And when he aimed it at the quartz, the amethyst, it actually didn't blow up. It didn't melt. It just turned white. So that in itself shows you how important it is for you to turn on your crystalline architecture, the crystalline architecture of your light body, because that is protective to the solar flares. That is protective. And for a time, we have been shielded and sheltered by the benevolent forces of the universe that want to ensure the preservation of life and consciousness that exists within this planet. But that can only last for so long. And so the most vital thing that you can do is reclaim and reconnect with God's source and awaken your divine crystalline structure so that you have the ability to hold that energy of God within your being without being destroyed, without going into the death portals, without turning into freaking lava. like you want to be able to have that as protection. That is why it is a protective shield. It is a crystal that can actually hold vast amounts of light and radiation and energy in a way that the regular human structure and other things are structured, they cannot withstand that much energy. And I think I saw that video today because that was the message from God, that this is what we're doing. We're activating our crystalline light bodies, our plasmic bodies, because it is protection from everything. It is protection from, for us to be able to travel through outer space with all of the radiation. It is protection for us, for our light bodies to travel. It is protection from death. It is protection from whatever is happening here in this universe, because it is going to decay. It is going to end and collapse. Whether you choose to loop through this particular universe over and over and over again until you turn to dust and become space dust and then rejoin God that way, it is going to end, and it ends in death. Versus when you tune into your crystalline body and activate your Christ God self, you activate yourself to be the son of God, to be the daughter of God, and you activate the divine trinity of God within you. You restructure yourself to be able to hold that much energy within your being. And then you have access. You start to have access to all of the different aspects of you that you really are. You start to have access to the God worlds. You start to have access with other beings that can help you. And it just goes on. You have access to be able to exit eventually this particular universe and go into the expanded one, where you can travel with your entire soul family, within all that there is to explore, and not have to loop through suffering and death cycles here within this false matrix of this particular universe, the corrupted universe that we're in. And I know all of this can sound like really bad, especially when people just want to do like their law of attraction manifestation. It's like, yeah, that's great. Of course you can do that. And that is a consciousness trap, because of course we have desires. Of course we want to live happy, fulfilled, beautiful, healthy, lives where we are supplied and where we can do what we want within this earth. And you can do that, but realize that if you are a soul who is trying to create massive change, you'll probably have a lot more obstacles. And the most vital thing that you can do along the way, as you change your own life, as you heal your own wounds and heal others, is to activate your crystalline light structure, your crystalline body. And you have to understand that as far as law of attraction goes, like doing things on earth is actually pretty easy. You just have to have a plan. You have to have a measurable actionable steps. So you have to have a goal, measure when you're going to do something, schedule that out, and you can have support, right? And then you just follow the steps and you get to the end. That's pretty easy, right? But then what happens? We have all of these emotional things come up. We have these different blocks. We have unexpected circumstances. And especially if you're one of these angelic souls, you will have random crazy things happen to you. And if you don't want to program that into yourself, then don't listen to that part. But I've had that happen, and I've done a lot to try to unprogram that and to disconnect and unplug myself from the fallen system. And we're all at different stages of that, and it's no judgment, and it's okay to be wherever you are. There's really advanced beings that I don't even know how they still have human bodies, and then there's beings that still are very, very much entwined within the human body and the human system. And it's not for you to not have access to this lifetime. It's like how can I activate my Christed God self and use this body the way that God meant for this body to be used within this matrix? Because when you wake up to God's source and you activate the crystalline light body and the crystalline, the Christed being that you are, you just want to be able to help the other beings in this world. And if you want to say that that's a construct, if you want to say that that's another program, then just understand that maybe there's final layers of programming, right? And it could be one of them. But generally, you want to allow God's source to maximize the use of this body. So you could reach various levels of enlightenment and still have a human body. And you really won't know until it's like a death portal, right? Where you go next. And so here you are at this moment in this pivotal time where you have been placed to have enough power to heal and change the world by healing. And, most people that don't even believe that they could do law of attraction, that just believe that they want to just not have that suffering, right? They believe that they're suffering, and so their desires, whatever they create, is based on a polarity system of not having enough money. And so then their desire is, I want to have more money, or not having enough time. And then they desire, I want to have enough time, or they think, they're not talented enough. And so they have a desire to be talented, or they're not healthy or skinny or muscular enough. And so then they have a desire to be those things which they are not. And they want the relief of the suffering, that the belief that they are not already those things, or that they do not possess that love within themselves, and that it is out there somewhere, and that they have to struggle until they get it. That type of manifestation is not based on the system of God, of co-creating with God. Because when you co-create with God, you create from wholeness. And you can do this at different levels. You can purify your desires by realizing that you are one with God, and you can manifest from a place of wholeness and find that inner feeling within yourself that then reflects within the reality. But more than that, you can start to discern whether that desire that you have the ability to manifest, that desire that you manifested, did it come from a place of wholeness, or did it come from a place of lack? Because if you continue to create from a place of lack, then the karmic consequences will reflect that system, because you're taking part within that matrix of polarity. It's not the matrix where you create with the wholeness and with the energy of God. And because I want this podcast to be of practical use to you, I'm going to describe the process of just like random simple manifestation. And, I apply this all the time. But when I talk about how these desires are based on wounding and wanting relief, that's the most that a lot of souls want to create in the system, just that temporary relief from the lack of connection that they feel with their inner source. And when you think about how addicted people are just to have that sense of relief, you'll realize that, wow, yeah. If somebody, think about people who are just addicted to heavy drugs. They don't want anything. They just want that drug, because that's what has become their relief. That's what has become, that is their only desire, because, and then they've done experiments where, I think that's why they don't want to have, they want people to be on this constant loop of chasing things. Because sometimes when you give people access to everything that they want, imagine you get a huge dopamine hit right now. Imagine that you're super happy right now for no reason. You don't have to exert any effort. Maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't do very much. You wouldn't move. You probably wouldn't want to do a lot. And so that doesn't create energy, right? This universe is based off of the collapsing of going from one top of the hill to the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. It's like a sine wave. It's like a snake moving, right? So it's based off of collapsing the action potentials of all of the different beings and all of the different movement that occurs when they go after specific goals, especially when these goals are tied to their wounding. So you think that you can manifest within this fallen matrix system, and you think that you'll get relief, but it's not going to be enough, because it's like eating fake food. It doesn't actually nourish your being. You think that you want fame and riches, and you can look at the celebrities, and they do have that. They have fame, riches, and anything that they could buy. And then go ahead and ask yourself, do you think that they're actually happy? Or do you think that they're enslaved by their so-called blessings and fame and riches? As much as the person who has nothing is enslaved by their desire of having what the celebrities have, of having that same fame and access to money. So as you can see, it doesn't matter if you become a king within this fallen matrix system or if you continue to be a slave. Because essentially you are all slaves in this system, because you're not creating from a place of wholeness with God. You're not even supposed to be in this matrix system, which is why healing is so much more than just healing. Healing is not manifesting. Healing is taking your power back out of the fallen matrix and returning it to God, returning it to you, returning it to who you truly are at the highest levels of being. And sometimes people don't want to heal because they're like, well, I just need money, so just show me how to manifest. Or I just need my lover, so show me how to manifest that. And, I don't want to think about actually healing because I don't want to go into my emotions because it's too painful and I just can't do it. And that's okay, because eventually you will come back to healing, because your soul will keep manifesting similar situations over and over and over, this lifetime, next lifetime, until you actually come to heal. So have compassion for yourself when you recreate the same issues with various lovers, when you recreate the same circumstances, because that's just your soul saying, hey, I really want you to come back and heal me, please. So I'm not saying don't manifest. What I'm saying is manifest from a place where you feel whole with God, so that the things that you create are the real treasures that you can keep after this body dies. They're going to keep trying to sabotage you and take you on loops here, different loops of dissatisfaction, chasing after all kinds of pleasure and desire, because that's how they run the system. That's how they feed on your life force. That's how they keep souls looping here, creating negative karma, killing each other, backstabbing, betrayal, wounding, hurting, causing trauma. So when you take that first step of radical forgiveness, you start to alleviate some of those karmic ties. And you start to take the perspective of the soul. You look at the movie screen of the lives that you have lived and the lives of those around you, and you witness with compassion who they were and who you were. And you forgive each other for how you acted within this matrix system when you were just playing those roles. And through this forgiveness, you can start to make your way back to the teachings of Christ, which is forgiveness, which is love. You've been in this matrix system for way too long, and you have the right to exit this system and to choose wholeness within the organic creation. You are an emanation from God. Essentially, you're God's child. And you have the right to be free, because that is how you were created. That is how God created you to be. You have the right to exit from this fallen matrix system, and you have the right to choose freedom. You have the right to rejoin your family of light. That is your true family. You have the right to be a free cosmic being. And you have the right to exit and end this fallen matrix game system. But you have to reclaim it. And you can start to do this by healing. Naturally, as you start to heal, you start to unwind your karmic ties with people. You start to unwind the themes, belief systems. You undo and dissolve the contracts. And as your soul starts to unwind itself from this plane and makes its way towards ascension, which is where you have reclaimed all of your power back, collapsed all the necessary timelines, flushed all of the debris, the miasma. You flushed all of the negativity and the negative energy with the energy of God source. You have activated your plasmic light bodies, your crystalline structure. Then that is when you can rejoin your soul core self. That's when you can truly merge and understand how much you are a son of God, a daughter of God, which is the portal of your consciousness out of this matrix. That's what is meant by ascension. You are building your crystalline light body that can withstand the amount of light quotient that is stacked upon stacked upon stacked, that spans the actual structure of reality as God created it to be. That is what actually runs God's energy through the entire system. And you're not going to do this until you're ready. And so have compassion for yourself and thank your pain for showing you the truth of the system. And core wounding, it's going to be where you're going to be sabotaged and infiltrated by negative ETs or negative forces to play whatever role they're pushing, because they have a particular agenda and they want just empty holograms of false bliss that are going to leave you empty inside. And maybe it'll feel satisfying, But you're not going to know the truth until you feel it and experience it for yourself. A lot of times you can't even tell what is false light and what is false bliss and what is part of the fallen matrix until you have the experience of asking God fervently with your entire being to show you the truth. And that is why truth is so important, for you to be devoted to hearing the truth that is, regardless of how it's going to make you feel. Then you can look at what is around you. You can look at yourself and your desires and what you want to manifest and see where they lead you. And most likely you'll realize that there's this pattern that you've had for a long time. And so you already know where this manifestation, desire, law of attraction thing is going to lead you. And it's basically a coping mechanism for a giant wound. It's a band-aid for a giant wound. And most likely it's going to lead you into that path of destruction. And it's going to lead you right back into healing again, because your soul is continuously going to do this until you heal. The whole point of healing is really to not just to create, but to that is like a byproduct of it. It is to free yourself of the limitations that are on your being. The limitations are coming from frozen energy that is stuck within those timelines that you have run your awareness and consciousness through, and it is looping through a highly impactful event within those timelines that your spirit has traveled its conscious awareness into, and that event is going to keep calling you back. So your body's job is to ensure the survival. And I described how impactful event contained chemicals that lock in that traumatic experience within your system, within your soul, at the mind level, at the emotional level, the spiritual level, the physical level. And so you have to undo all of that. The body is made of all of these elements of the planet that you're on, and it is attached to the energetic currents and grids around this planet. So whatever is going on and happening to the planet is also going to affect you on some level, and vice versa. So as you begin to heal your own body, you're also going to be healing the planet, and you heal the universe, and you heal everything collectively, because everything is connected. And so when there have been timelines where there's been intense horror, helplessness, confusion, these events are the ones that lead to post-traumatic stress disorders within particular lifetimes. These events are the ones that are imprinted upon your soul. And these are the ones that we need to go back and heal. And so even if you just want to, if you don't have that much trauma, if you just desire to heal the planet and be a positive influence, then just go back within yourself and ask yourself, follow those spaces of discomfort and have an understanding for the way that the electromagnetic grids function around your body. And you'll begin to apply that to the electromagnetic grids around the earth and around our solar system and around the planets and around the universe, right? And so everything is imprinted upon the energy field first, and then it is translated into the physical, because the physical is the most condensed form of matter that represents the underlying energy patterns of relationship that underlie the physical condensation of that energy. Meaning that one point connects to another point, connects to another point. And you can think of this as star points and connections on different levels, determining the shape of something and what that shape is and how that shape is going to interact with its environment. And so when you heal emotionally, mentally, when you collapse those timelines, you start to repattern the way that your individual soul and the light body interact with the matrix of reality. Even within this fallen matrix system, it will change the way that you are attracting specific situations into your life. And so based on your soul's individual energetic charge, or the coding that is programmed into your spirit, into your body, into your being, that is how you will create the reality around you. That is how you affect the field of all that is. And that's how you experience this reality. And you can reprogram your coding through healing. That's what manifestation is about. It's about your ability to recode yourself in a way that you choose. It's about you being able to have the experience that you want without the limitations of past trauma dictating what you should manifest or what you should want in the first place. So everything is here right now, and we're just tapped into the specific channels of reality that are based on our individual geometries and coding. So when you go back and heal, you are recoding yourself to interact with reality in a different way. We're designed to interact at various levels of reality. And when your soul is in this body and it has this traumatic event occur, it sets up a cascade of biochemical reactions within your body that lock in a specific circuitry into that survival mode, because everything is connected. And that specific circuitry, when it is collective, can impact the entire planet, vast fields. So when you have vast numbers of people that are vibrating at a consciousness of fear, that is creating a large wave of supply, of energy supply at a specific wavelength and frequency that specific beings can feed on. So a lot of the negative ETs and a lot of negative beings, there's so many different kinds of beings, will feed on the lower bandwidths. They will feed on that energy of chaos, of fear, of trauma, of terror that is produced by beings who are connected to God, like you. And so that's why they want to keep people in a perpetual state of suffering, because it feeds, you cause the molecules and the energy and the firing to affect the field around you, and then they feed upon that field with containing your life force. That's how you're basically being harvested, and they can direct that energy, depending on what energy is being siphoned, into specific grid networks that are creating specific holographic inserts, that are creating these realities that are not really what God intended to create, that just perpetuate suffering. And so when you go back and you collapse those timelines, reclaim your energy, and you heal, you are saying no to all of that. And when you release the energy that has been trapped within those timelines, which means that you start to release the karmic loops, and it means that you start to release the others, there's less density there. It impacts all of the other lifetimes connected to that individual soul. And it creates a ripple effect. And if the ripple effect that occurs is positive, then that can have a very good healing effect on everyone. If the ripple effect is negative, then it can bind those souls together to keep having to reincarnate in other lives, to meet again and again, to try to balance out this karma, because that's just the laws of cause and effect within this universe. Energy attachments can be very common, especially with souls that have massive karma to release together. And I'm not trying to make you guys scared here or say that, certain people aren't meant to be together. Of course you're meant to be together. You probably have karmic ties. Of course you're meant to be together. You probably have lived multiple lifetimes on this planet, on other planets, on other realities simultaneously right now. And there's a lot of love. And that's the funny thing. There's so much love. If you actually look at the reality, there's so much love flowing between every single being that is alive, because we have multiple simultaneous lifetimes that are going on. And the love that we experience, the relationships, it's like you can't claim one soul, because that soul is part of God. And guess what? You are part of God. And so the love just flows. The only things that can really match up is the particular coding. And who's programming that coding? Well, that programming is either going to be you consciously programming that with God source, or it's going to be the negative ET beings within the matrix using you and your individual weaknesses and traumas and life force and particular charge within your being to be irresistibly, magnetically attracted to specific kinds of people that represent that exact energy or that coding, that carry those codes, and then you'll think you're meant to be with them. And of course you are. But what you really need to ask yourself is, are you meant to be with them because authentically from a place of being one with God and having everything that you need inside of you, you are choosing them? Or are you choosing them because you think that's the cure to your wound? And if there is a wound, then you're not fully understanding how deeply you're loved and how supplied you are right now with God. And it's not a blame thing. It's just, I've had so many people, be stuck in this pattern. I've gone through it, and I've seen others that have just been stuck for like years and years on specific programs with specific people. We were created in wholeness and freedom. And so you can't take ownership of another being. That's part of the fallen matrix. The only valid choice, the co-creative choice with God, is the one that is made in complete freedom, without coercion of any kind. And that's not to say that you might have preferences of things, like maybe you really like this particular person because there's this special twinkle in their eye or whatever, or they like the same things that you do, whatever it is. We've all had lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes together. We've all had relationships. We've all had some sort of like cousin, brother, sister, mother, father type relationship with each other. So if it limits you and you don't feel free and you feel less than whole and less than radiant, then there's more healing to be done with God, rather than seeing one particular being as a band-aid to your deep wounding. All I'm trying to say here is that there's forces within the universe that will program beings based on trauma to be together because they want specific breeding to occur. They want specific beings and bloodlines to mix because they carry specific coding and tagging, and they have been tagged. And they want to perpetuate the suffering and the continuation of this fallen matrix. And you have the power to choose healing. Okay? You can collapse the negative timelines and be at one with God's source and create from a place of being a sovereign leader and creator, and choose your experience without any survival fear-based limitations that you have encountered here on earth. And I say that with a lot of compassion, not because I've healed everything, but because I'm understanding how to heal the human vessel. You become more free. You start to realize how much more powerful you are when you know that you are connected to this infinite power source. The negative forces, the siphoning forces, want you to believe that you only have the choices that they present to you, which very often are victor and victimizer, meaning you can either be the winner or the loser, the victor in victory, or the loser that is victimized. And that is the reptilian mind overlay. Many people are tagged and controlled remotely by these reptilian entities, as well as many others who don't wish to be incarnated and can't be, but want to feed on the energy system within this planet and within the souls that are living here. And so these highly enslaved, controlled people that have been tagged and implanted through wounding in various lives can act as the agents of evil when they are impulsed by the controllers. And then they start up chaos and they inflict more wounding on different levels, emotional, psychological, physical, on one or many different kinds of people. And since we've lived many lifetimes on Earth, we've all had trauma. We've all been tagged, implanted, recruited even by specific beings into doing specific things or into working for them. And your level of control here is in choosing to heal. And choosing to evict those forces from your body, choosing to be a sovereign being and to not allow anyone else to have access to who you truly are, to not be able to control you, to not pull on your heartstrings, on your emotions, to not make you this reactive, easily controllable thing. You're meant to be proactive and co-creative. And that is why we heal. Because we become free. We become who we were really meant to be, the explorers and creators of all that exists as God meant for it to be. And we can create like that without having to leak our energy, our life force into any negative timeline or have that affect the energy and our ability to create the things that we really want to experience. And so there's different levels of healing that you will go through when you start to heal. So you're going to have to heal the physical body. So that includes your health, your mobility, your nutrition, the ability of your body to flow energy through its lymphatic system, its digestive system, the ability to absorb nutrients and release or flush toxins, and it includes the health of your physical brain. So your personal control center up in your mind, which includes like, the amygdala, the hippocampus, everything. You have to make sure that everything is functioning well and releasing the appropriate amounts of hormones for optimal longevity and overall all system optimal functioning, right? So that's the physical level. You want to be able to move. You want to be flexible. You want to be able to run. You want to be able to hike around, climb trees, have energy to do everything that you desire. And so you can start to heal by choosing to take responsibility and ownership of your physical body. So that's one level. Whole level healing would include the mind as well, which, it's much easier to have a positive mind when your brain is releasing the balanced hormones and chemicals that you need in order to feel good about your body, to feel good about your mobility, to have the right energy levels, and to not be held back by systems like fear. And you can heal your mind by healing the body. You can also reprogram your subconscious with positive belief systems and imprints that affect your daily responses to stress, to life, and that can help you to more intrinsically start to take the required action to create your desired experience into this reality. So you can instill the belief systems that can help you to do this more effortlessly, and you can collapse out the negative programming that is holding you back and that is kind of like having this tug of war within you. So you can do this by meditation. There's lots of different techniques. There's hypnotherapy. But essentially, so you learn to heal the body and you feed it nutrient-dense food. So in the same way, when you start to heal your mind, you want to start feeding yourself nutrient-dense thoughts, images, sounds, music, be around positive people. To be a true sovereign creator means that you can feed your mind energy-rich thoughts that fuel your purpose, give you energy, and you're also able to assimilate what you need from those programs, associations, and neuronal networks, and then you can build what you need to do and then release when you are done easily. Just the way it's the same way that you take in nutrients, take up their, absorb what you need, and then release the rest. It's the same thing with your mind. You're not meant to be this solid thing that never moves. It's all about that flow. And you want to continue to relinquish everything that you don't need, to flush. You want to create new associations of thought loops. Not really loops, but thought connections, new relationships. You want to be able to create and build whatever it is that you decide that you want to create within that moment. Because you, in your divine power, united with the mind of God and the body of God, you can instantly create. You can download the knowledge that you need to be a specific character, a specific role, a specific archetype. You can do all of that. It's easy. Because if you're simply after the human experience, then there's a lot of experiences and roles for you to play here if you want that. That is one level of reality. And when you get bored, or if you decide that you want to go further than that, then of course you can go way beyond that. So you start to begin to heal the soul when you want to go beyond just manifesting things. And when you want to go into creating with God and not just creating here upon the physical plane. So healing your soul is sort of similar. That's when you come in and you start to identify the places of stuck energy within those timelines. So the stuck energy, and this is because all of the systems are together, right? So you can feel stuck energy within your body. And you can address that with exercise, yoga, like Tai Chi. You could get massage. You could do all kinds of things to the body. But you'll still notice that you might have stuck energy or places that hurt for no reason. And so that's when you want to go in and meditate. And you can search the timelines any timeline of your choosing for any of your bodies. And you learn to reassess, correct, repair, heal what needs to be healed, and introduce solutions into that timeline, into that story, the movie screen that you witnessed. And then you can seal it off, collapse the timeline so that your vital energy is not stuck there anymore. And you can reclaim your power the moment that you choose to resolve and heal the you that lived through that experience. And you can void and nullify it. And you do this with, of course, the help of your spiritual team, your soul family, God. And a human healer can be so instrumental in helping you to guide the process. It's like the translator, the loudspeaker for your intuition sometimes if you're not sure how to do it yourself. And you do this for all of the bodies, all the timelines, all the places in which your consciousness is not flowing, so that you can reuptake your vital life force energy, stop feeding the negative beings, the negative timelines, leaking them energy, and use that vital life force to actually rejuvenate your body, to stay young, and to create the desired experience. And so just to recap, like whole level healing addresses the mind, the current physical body, and the soul. And all of these systems are connected, and you can start wherever you choose, whatever calls to you the most. But when you start to heal this trinity of your soul, your body, your mind, then you start to understand again how you are connected to others, how your energy starts to impact other beings around you. You start to impact people that you have interactions with, including plants, animals, environment, the local ecosystem, your global ecosystem, the entire planet, because collectively we can do a lot together. And this in turn is connected to our solar system. It's connected to the grids. It's connected to the stars. It's connected to the galaxies within larger and larger and larger bodies of consciousness and God's source. And so healing individually can impact everything as you move from the individual to the collective and to ever larger bodies. So to start, you have this physical body, and you can start to take deeper breaths just for the sake of being able to flow air into your lungs. And you can acknowledge that we are breathing in molecules that have been around for eons. And that the oxygen exchange occurring in your lungs is happening between molecules that have been circulating for quite a while, and the particles that make up your cells have actually existed for millions and millions and millions of years. And continue to breathe and think about the hydrogen atoms that are involved in all of the chemical bonding and processing within your DNA right now. And think and feel that these atoms, these hydrogen atoms, were in fact created when this universe was created. Or that carbon and nitrogen and oxygen, when all of these elements were created inside of burning stars. So just breathe into that. How amazing is it? Here you are as a miracle of existence, part of everything everywhere. And you got this body right here, right now. Like you got this breath, like you got this moment, like you have this existence, like you have this awareness right now as your starting point. And it does not matter where you have been or haven't been. This is where you are, and this is the key. To be present enough to feel, to follow whatever it is you need to follow within. To release the things that need to be released. And you can begin to feel yourself again by healing the body, the mind, and the soul. And that's where my specialty comes in. As a highly attuned energy healer, my intent has always been to harmonize, to bring back into balance the discordant energies in this planet so that we can attune ourselves to God's infinitely beautiful creation unity song. There's so much distortion here in this realm, and naturally beings who are in service to the Creator will want to help harmonize what is out of tune with the divine song. Not just for the purpose of good music, but because the sound and light are connected. And these are what create form. And those forms create the universes and dimensions and worlds with beings that have consciousness. And that consciousness is felt by God, as God is in everything. And it is not God's wish for any being to suffer or to be stuck in suffering, but the laws of creation have to be respected. And so it takes different levels of individual souls to help harmonize, heal, free the consciousness that is stuck in suffering as a divine mercy of God. And much in the same way as you would go back into those timelines of trauma for your past or parallel life selves, God is coming back to heal you. God is healing you within this fallen time matrix of reality, so that we can allow this time matrix, slave matrix, false matrix construct to collapse and send back the energies that need to go wherever it is they need to go. But you, the child of God, can return home to Divine Mother, Divine Father, and rejoin your soul family in a holy, sacred Trinity. God is coming back for you, through you, and your choice, and your individual free desire to rejoin your soul family so that you can be protected, so that you can hold infinite amounts of light within your being, so that you can consciously remember that you are running the energy of God's source through you, and that you and God are one. Never be separate from your understanding that you have the ability to create the experiences of your choosing in the eternal realms of beauty, of love, of joy. And that's what it's come to here on earth now. That healing is helping those who know that they want to create something big in their life, and that they want to rejoin their soul family. And you can find different healers that can help you to heal the physical body, to heal the mind, and to help you heal at the soul level. And a lot of times you will have to dive into those loops of understanding how corrupted the world has been, so that maybe you want to find solutions to the actual wounding and not just stick a band-aid on it. When you have an intention, that makes the destination clear, and you can heal everything that is in the way of your experience to that goal or desire. And this is how I run my sessions for people. I ask them to have an intention. What is your intention? What do you desire to create next? And then we heal everything that they perceive as an obstacle to them having that experience. And I believe it's all connected. Our health issues, our, the way that we view others, the way that we treat other beings. If you ask me, I will recommend a vegan diet and a plant-based diet, and what I have personal experience with healing. It's just been the most beneficial for my being, and what I have the most experience with in healing myself. With the mind and soul levels, I'm able to tap into the different layers of energy and read them and translate them with you, for you to recognize where you have had that stuck energy and how you can begin to release it. And so a lot of times, I will introduce the flow back into those places and spaces, and then we collapse and seal those timelines while letting go and evicting those entities to go back to God. But that way they're no longer involved within those loops, and they're no longer siphoning your energy, so that you have more vital life force to devote into the things that you actually want to create. And you can recall your soul energy back to yourself at any time. You don't need anyone else to do this. You can heal yourself. But if you really, really want to be honest with yourself, if you could do it on your own, you probably would have. And so there's underlying layers that you need to dive into, that hiring somebody to help you with might prove to be extremely beneficial. In general, here's what you need to create success in your life. You need a vision, a role, like an archetypal role to give your subconscious. You need to feel into that role and see if you can embody it, to find the blocks to it. And you need a plan. It has to be an actionable plan. It has to be measurable. And then you need to foolproof that plan so that you have the support to carry it out, even when unexpected things occur, so that you can develop the habits that keep you going, even when the going gets tough. That's all part of foolproofing the plan, is to create those habits. And that is where coaching can be really, really helpful for you. You might not understand why things aren't working on your own. And so it's helpful to have someone on your team, on your side, someone that is louder than your guides, because sometimes we just ignore our guides. I've definitely done that and been through it so many times. If your higher self is telling you that the pain is too much and you need to go find a healer, then I really think you searching for a healer is the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself. This reality is really temporary, and the best thing that you can do is co-create with God, because when you create from just a purely physical plane, you're creating with polarized energy, which will inevitably have a positive side and a negative side. But when you co-create in wholeness with God, you create with the energy of God into the things that are eternal, and those things can never be taken away from you. Those things are not corrupt, and the choice, of course, is yours. It is given to you in sovereign freedom.
Thank you so much for joining me on this voyage into the depths of cosmic consciousness. I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you who've tuned in and embarked on this journey with me. I want to extend a heartfelt invitation for you to visit my website, DharaniAkashic.com, and explore a wealth of resources designed to help support you in your starseed awakening. Please follow and connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, and send me any questions that you have so I can answer them on the podcast. As a token of my appreciation, I invite you to download a complimentary meditation that will help guide you in connecting with your starseed soul origin family. It's a powerful tool that can help deepen your understanding and strengthen your cosmic bonds, because I know how crucial it is for us to have that connection here on Earth. Remember, fellow starseeds, you are not alone. Embrace this cosmic connection and continue to nurture the profound awakening from within. Together, let us ignite that spark of higher consciousness and create ripples of profound transformation in our lives and the world around us. So until our paths cross again, may the stars illuminate your path, and may your journey be filled with love, light, and boundless cosmic wisdom. Thank you for joining me. I'm sending you lots of love and cosmic proportion hugs from your star family and the Council.